Just Energy with naturopath and medical intuitive Dr. Rita Louise. We have learned from Einstein's theories that matter and energy are one. Physicists believe that all systems in nature have their own particular way of vibrating. From the swing of a pendulum to the waves in the ocean to the light that brightens the sky each day, each of these oscillates at its own unique rate. In the same way, things such as rocks and minerals vibrate very slowly and at speeds that are imperceptible to us. Living things such as plants, animals, and man vibrate faster and appear to be alive. The same holds true for every thought, feeling, event, or word we speak. Each has its own frequency or rate of vibration. What many of us don't realize is if we take everything in our own universe down to its simplest form, it is all just energy. Join Dr. Rita as she explores questions such as, what are we made of? Why do we get sick? How can I live a more balanced and whole life? Call in and talk to her and her thought-provoking guest. Send us your questions and get the help you need to move beyond any obstacles or challenges that may be affecting your life, right from the source. So stay tuned and explore your possibilities.
Hello and welcome to Just Energy Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Rita Louise, and thank you all for tuning into the show today. You know, technology is grand, and actually, I am going to start here. So did you know that tomorrow is supposed to be the end of the world? Yes, not 2012, but tomorrow. Don't you think that's kind of interesting? According to, and I don't have the person's name, but it's supposed to be tomorrow at 6 o'clock, but I'm not sure if it's like 6 a.m., if it's 6 p.m., if it's 6, East Coast time, England time. But regardless, it's the end of the world as we know it. And so in case that really is true, thank you all for tuning into the show, and we'll see you in my next lifetime, I guess. But thank you all for tuning into the show today. We're having some technical issues. I am hoping my guest calls in. We were trying to connect via Skype, and that is not really working very good right now. And so I am hoping that I can get him to call in. I don't know. Technology, it is just grand. It just makes me crazy. And now he just got back online. It has definitely been an issue on his end because he has just disappeared in and out of Skype. And I've just sent him a message asking him to call into the show because I can't be on the same line on two different... There he is. Sam, are you there?
Hello, can you hear me?
There you are! Sam!
Well, I can hear you, for a few minutes, but I guess... well, anyway, you can hear me now.
I can hear you now.
All
Hi,
right.
Sam.
Let's go then. I guess you gave an introduction, so maybe I can take over from that. Now,
all right,
what
everybody,
we have here,
this
Dr.
is
Rita,
Sam.
Yes.
I am so excited to have you, and so let's just get right into the meat. And so, for the listener's sake,
yes.
Pyramids in Bosnia? I thought there were only pyramids in Egypt. What's going on?
Now, guess what? What they taught us in schools was completely wrong. They told us that the pyramids were built in Egypt and Mexico. But that's not correct. That's just the beginning of the story. I have been investigating the pyramids all over the planet, and they are on all 6 continents. They are in South America, 300 of them in Peru, in Bolivia. They are in Central America, 10,000 of them, because I did my PhD in Mayan civilizations, and they are everywhere: Mexico, Guatemala, Salvador, Belize, Honduras. I was in China. They have 250 of them. They have 224 in Sudan. They even have them around, surrounding the African continent, Sicily, Sardinia, Canary Islands, Mauritius. So no wonder that they were built in South Europe also. And guess what? 6 years ago, I first came to the central Bosnian town of Visoko 20 miles northwest from the capital city of Sarajevo, and I have noticed the perfect regular shape of a couple of hills. You could see triangular faces, obvious corners. I put the compass to it, and it showed me east, west, north, south, perfect match with the cardinal points. I immediately knew that I'm in the presence of the pyramids. And in the last 6 years, we have been researching, investigating, doing archaeological digging, sample testing, radiocarbon datings, and concluded in central Bosnia we got the biggest pyramidal complex ever. It consists of 5 pyramids, which I named the pyramids of the sun, moon, dragon, earth, and love, and the huge underground tunnel network. So we live in exciting times. The 21st century has a need to rewrite the known history.
In the work that you've done on the pyramids, have you found any materials that will allow you to date the pyramids, or at least do any preliminary dating as to how old they are?
Yes, we have. You see, in Bosnia, we've been bringing 7 elements which will forever change our view of ancient history. Number 1, these are the first pyramids in Europe. Number 2, these are the biggest pyramids on the planet. The Great Pyramid of Egypt is 450 feet high. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun is 700 feet high. Number 3, the Bosnian pyramids have the most precise orientation towards the cardinal points. Number 4, when we start removing the soil and vegetation that they've been covering the pyramids for so long, we are discovering rectangular blocks. We've analyzed them in 6 independent scientific institutions in Bosnia, Italy, and France, and they confirmed that these are the concrete blocks, artificially made material of exceptional quality. And now we are coming to element number 5, which will answer your question. According to the Institute of Pedology, the pyramids that have been covered by soil, that soil analysis showed that the soil is about 12,000 years old, meaning that the pyramids are even older. So Egyptian pyramids with 4,500 years are much younger. The Chinese, Peruvian, or Mexican with a couple of thousand years are even younger. So this discovery in Bosnia are taking us back thousands and thousands of years before the Egyptian pyramids. The element number 6 is that under the pyramids there is a huge network of underground tunnels, corridors, intersections, chambers, underground lakes, very exciting underground world. And number 7, in those tunnels we are discovering megalithic blocks up to 18,000 pounds in mass. When we analyzed them, they told us this is a ceramic. So again, it's artificial material, and somebody had the knowledge how to make ceramic thousands and thousands of years back. So those 7 elements forever change our view of ancient history. But that's not all. Last couple of years.
There's more?
Oh, yes. In last couple of years, we've started looking for the answer. What is the purpose of these huge, colossal structures? And we had a team of the physicists from Croatia. They came with the equipment, and they were looking for the electromagnetic anomalies in the frequency of hertz, kilohertz, megahertz, and gigahertz. Around the pyramids, we have not found any. But when we came on the very top, in the central part of the plateau of the Sun Pyramid, we discovered the existence of the energy beam coming through the center of the pyramid. Now, that energy beam is of 13 feet radius and has a frequency of 28 kilohertz. Now, that's the frequency of the ultrasound. Nowadays, we do use ultrasound in the medicine, but in order to have it, you have to have artificial source. It can be mechanical device, electromagnetic machine, or so-called piezoelectrical effect. And that is, when you press the quartz crystal, you can see the energy coming. If you keep pressing it, keep squeezing it, you get the energy beam. So theoretically, it can mean that inside the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, we have a huge piece of the quartz crystal and 100 Bosnians squeezing it. The only problem with those Bosnians would be the rate. 28 kilohertz means that somebody is squeezing that crystal at the rate of 28,000 times per second. So in other words, you have to have artificial source. So for the first time in the pyramid science, we have proved that the pyramid acts as the energy generator. Now, if you want me to continue on this interesting phenomenon, let me say this.
Can I ask one little baby question? Can I ask
Yes.
one little baby question in line with this? You said that it was 28 hertz?
28 kilohertz.
Kilohertz. And so from, like, you mentioned ultrasound frequency, or, you know, the ultrasound that they use in medical, is, you know, comparative-wise, how much, you know, ultrasound do they have to have in order to do an ultrasound? That totally didn't make sense. On a person, I mean, what kind of numbers do they have to make it be
ultrasound is a sound. But really what we have here is the electromagnetic phenomenon with the frequency of the ultrasound. And there is a difference there, because here in the pyramid we have a type of the energy. It's not just the sound, that's the energy. Now, 28 kilohertz we cannot hear and we cannot see, but it is there. It can be measured. Now, the question I had for the team of the physicists is, because they stay there only for 15 minutes. I said, okay, come back again and stay for 3 days. Let me see if that phenomenon continues. They came back, they stayed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and the energy beam was there, the same frequency, the same radius. The interesting thing is, when you go out of that radius of 13 feet, there is no signal. And the second thing is, since it's continuous, it means that somebody made a machine to produce some type of the focused energy. And we thought that it was all, but it was not. The miracles are still to come. Namely, we placed our instrument on the top of the Sun Pyramid, and it shows us a certain intensity of that energy beam. Then we lift it up for about 10 feet, and the signal was stronger. We lifted up for another 10 feet. The signal was even stronger. So the physicists, they could not believe their eyes. They said, well, it contradicts all known physical laws and our type of technology, which we can term Hertzian technology. According to our technology, closer you get to the source, the signal should be stronger, and vice versa. If you move away from the center of the source, the signal should be getting weaker. But in this particular case, we had something totally different. We have something which we can call non-Hertzian technology. And guess what? The first guy who dealt with the non-Hertzian technology was the guy who was born only 200 miles from this place, called Nikola Tesla.
I knew you were going to say that.
120 years ago. And what he was doing in his lab in Colorado Springs 120 years ago, he was experimenting with the energy. He wanted to find the free and unlimited source of energy. So what he did, he invented so-called Tesla's coil. And he was sending the energy from one end of his lab to the other one, 50 feet away. He was sending it wirelessly. Imagine, 120 years ago. And he was able to lit up the light bulbs 50 feet away. And just before they burned his lab in Colorado Springs, he managed to have one experiment with his Tesla's coil using the ionosphere as the unlimited source of the energy and sending it to the town of Colorado Springs, which at that time had 20,000 homes, and he was able to lit up all of them with one experiment. Unfortunately, all his inventions were put in the drawers because the corporations didn't want that. They did not want the free energy, unlimited energy, with the free transportation in wireless ways. So what they wanted to do, they wanted to build thermal, hydro, and nuclear power. And, they wanted to transport it with 20 to 50% loss, and they wanted to sell it to us in a very expensive way. And that's, of course, the way how the profit economy works. So now, 120 years after Nikola Tesla, we have the second case of the energy machine that produces the energy beam. Obviously, it is unlimited, it is free. Somebody put this machine in work thousands and thousands of years ago, and it's still been working, meaning that we have, for the first time in our history, perpetual mobile. So we have a chance not only to change our history forever, but to change our future. And that's what this little country of Bosnia is capable of.
I find it fascinating. Last week, it was last week, we had Michael Tellinger on. I don't know if you're familiar with Michael.
Yes,
he is out of South Africa, and one of the things that he talks about is the sound quality and the sound dynamics of the structures in South Africa, that they're resonating. The stones in the structures resonate. And I think it is just, you start putting the pieces together when you have different people in different areas finding very similar things, where you're talking about how these pyramids are actually creating and emitting sound frequency as if it were a power source.
Exactly.
And his comment was, they use sound, or his theory is that they use sound to transport stones to make things as their power source, and not electricity in the way that we know it today.
You see, the world of the past was the world of the pyramids and megalithic structures. The ancient people would use whatever they had handy. They knew our planet better, even though they did not have computers or cranes or automobiles. They knew the energy of our planet better. They knew the underground waters. So, they would build their stuff accordingly. Now, the list of the miracles in Bosnia does not end here. I have one more complex, and that's the one below the ground. Now, I did mention the pyramid acting as the energy generators. And remember what they've been teaching us in schools. They said the pyramids are built as tombs for the Egyptian pharaohs. Wrong. When you take the biggest and the oldest and the most superior Egyptian pyramids like Cheops, Khafre, Myceren, Sneferus, and so on, there are no mummies, no organic material, no hieroglyphic writings, no royal furniture, no tools, not a single proof who actually built them, when, and why. And really, when we think, using our common sense, why would someone spend so much time, energy, material, engineering skills to build such a huge, colossal structure just to bury one dead man? Does not make sense. But if you have a type of the energy machine with the focus energy beam, and we know that there are 3 types of energy coming from the pyramid. The second one is the energy flow within the pyramid. And the third one is the energy that goes off the base in concentric circles, benefiting the crops and societies. Then we realized that the pyramids were much, much more than a tomb. The pyramids were built for the living communities, not for one dead guy. And not only that, I noticed that, for example, in Egypt, in Saqqara, the Step Pyramid has a huge labyrinth below just one pyramid. There are tunnels under the Giza Pleateau. There are tunnels in Chinese Shanxi province where they have their pyramids. There are tunnels and the chambers under the Syria pyramid in Teotihuacan, Mexico. So we discover a most extensive underground tunnel network in Bosnia. Now, those tunnels were kind of a mystery because you go every 5 or 10 feet, you have side tunnels, you have a huge network. And you were thinking, why they build such a huge network? It's just that if they wanted to connect 2 pyramids, you build 1 or 2 tunnels, not a labyrinth. But then we started measuring the concentration of the negative ions. Negative ions are so important because they kill microbes and viruses and bacteria, and they keep the atmosphere clean and sterile. We make those ionizators. We sell them to the hospitals nowadays. But the ancients had their way to make such underground facilities with a high concentration of negative ions. In your studio, and here in Norway, where I am currently right now, the average concentration of negative ions is 1,000 kiloions per cubic centimeter. In underground chambers in Bosnia is 43,000, 43 times higher. So they have some type of the hospital underground. And not only that, the way we live, we've been exposed to all sorts of negative radiations, to cosmic radiations, to so-called Hartmann grids, to Schneider's grids, to Curie's grids, to underground natural radioactivity, then to underground water and the negative energy from that water. So all our life, our body cells fight that enemy in a form of negative radiation. But when we entered the underground tunnels, and when we brought the equipment, the instruments, to measure the presence of negative radiations, we were surprised to find that there was none. No any type of negative radiations, no Hartmann grids, no Schneiders, no Curies, no radioactivity. In other words, whoever designed and executed this underground complex, they wanted to make the safest place. So that's amazing. Why? Because when we enter the tunnels, our body cells don't need to fight that enemy in the form of radiation. So they can do their job. And our cells start to communicate, between themselves, and they start looking the problems in our bodies. They start balancing the energy and our organs. So they start a natural self-healing process. And they did some measurement on me before I entered the tunnels and after. And whenever we have some organs in pairs, like the chest, usually one organ works better and the other one is not, fully utilized. In my case, the left side of my chest worked, almost 100%, but the right side was not, fully used up. So when I entered the tunnels, I came back, they measured me again. They found out that the cells started taking the energy from the left side, transferring to the right side. So they are balancing, the work of the body organs. And the second thing is, in our lives, we are surrounded by toxins. We eat food full of toxins. We drink water, which is not clean. We, breathe the air. We use detergents, floor pastes, and all other stuff. So the toxins are getting into our body very deep. So after a few decades, you cannot even, scan them. You cannot find them. They went to our, molecular level. Well, while in the tunnel, our cells started finding the toxins, and they were pushing them out to the surface, and we could scan that. So in other words, whoever designed this construction underground, under the Bosnian Pyramids, they made a place to regenerate human body, to revitalize us. And now it all makes full sense. Above the ground, they have the energy generators, because energy is what we need all our life. And below the ground, they have something to take care of the most valuable thing we have in our lives, and that's it, our health. So we can see the genius of the ancient builders of the pyramids in Bosnia.
Let me ask you this question. That's fascinating. This thing about the tunnels is fascinating. Have they done similar kind of measurements underneath the pyramids in Giza or the Step Pyramid or any of the other ones where they've found these labyrinths to look at the ion levels?
No, they have not, and the reason is very simple. Over 100 years of Egyptology have been wasted because only Egyptologists and archaeologists, they have access to these sites. And the people who run those projects, the elite science, people like Zahi Habas and the others, they do not let other scientists with different views, with different instruments to come and measure it, because Egyptology...
Oh, no. Sam, your voice just cut out. And this was like getting to be the juicy part. Come back. Come back. The world's not supposed to end till tomorrow. Come back, Sam. Please come back. I know you can hear me. Use the power of the pyramid to come back. I'm just a little bit frustrated. Okay, well, if anybody has a question in the chat room that they'd like to ask that maybe I can answer, sort of, I'd be happy to do that. Actually, you know what? We're going to go take a commercial break. We're behind. I wasn't going to take one because of our technical difficulty. We're going to take a commercial break, and hopefully Sam will be back with us on the other side.
Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages. And now back to Just Energy Radio with Dr. Rita Louise. Uh-oh. Did we come back from break? Okay.
we got Sam back on the air. At least he's in the screening room, which is where I was, and I guess I can't hear the commercial, so sorry. But let's get Sam back on the air. Sam, hey, can you hear me? Can I hear you?
Yes, I'm here. All right.
So when we got rudely disconnected again, you were talking about how mainstream archaeology is taking this whole thing. Well, you were talking about them doing measurements. I want to kind of shift that question a little bit. How are they taking this find? I have heard some skeptics, I don't want to mention any names, but pretty big name people come out and say, well, it's just a natural formation. How are you taking that kind of stuff, or them just ignoring you?
Let me say this. What we have in the Bosnia is the biggest archaeological discovery. Now, the thing is, when you mention the word pyramid, people usually go in their mind in Egypt, and they can see the desert, they can see the stone blocks one on top of each other, they can see the pyramids. But they are not aware that 90% of the pyramids in the world are covered by soil and vegetation. All 250 pyramids in China are covered by dirt. Thousands of pyramids in Mexico, Guatemala, Salvador, Belize are covered by soil. How do we know that they are pyramids? Because you can see the shape. In the case of the Bosnian Pyramids, you can clearly see the shape of the pyramid. Triangular faces, 4 of them, they meet in the apex. You can see the corners. You can see the rectangular base. So, geometrically speaking, it is a pyramid. The orientation is very important. All Chinese pyramids, most of Egyptian or Peruvian or American, they are oriented towards the north. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, according to the State Institute for Geodesy, has the best orientations toward the north. The error is 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and only 12 seconds. The third element, of course, is the construction material. When we remove the soil, we are finding rectangular concrete blocks. We have
and that's
only
on the
one
outside?
Excuse me?
That's on the outside of the pyramid, like the surface stones?
Exactly, the surface, yes. Now, we had some people who never came to Bosnia, like Zaki Havas, some geologists from London or from New York or New Orleans who claim, it's all natural. And we had only one geologist who came in the very beginning of the project, Dr. Robert Schock, who said, this was all natural. But he has not done a single sample analysis. Unlike those people, we want to do everything in scientific way. Whatever we found, we test it, not in 1, but in 2, 3, 4, or even 6 independent labs. So if leading labs in France, Italy, or Bosnia, if they said this is artificially made concrete, man-made concrete, which code the shape of the pyramid, the perfect shape of the pyramid, which is perfectly oriented, and there are corridors inside the pyramid, and there is a huge underground tunnel network, obviously you do have a huge construction complex. So for the 4 years, we have been proving that this complex exists. In 2008, we held the first international scientific conference on Bosnian pyramids. 55 scientists, archaeologists, Egyptologists, geologists, geophysicists from 15 countries came to Visoko, Bosnia, confirming that this was not a natural phenomenon, but the artificial complex. So after that, we felt that there was no need to prove to anyone that this is artificial complex. Since then, we've been investigating the purpose of those pyramids. And that's exactly what I was talking about the first 30 minutes of our conversation. We found out that the purpose was to build a huge energy generators and make the most safest place underground. So I think that we've been doing the pioneering work, and most of the scientists in Egypt, Mexico, China, Peru should be looking what we've been doing here in Bosnia and try to get interdisciplinary approach. They need to deploy the teams of physicists, experts in electromagnetic fields, satellite, thermal, and other type of the analysis.
Bless you. Have there been what's the word that I want to use? Any evidence found of man-made, like pottery or carved stones, anything to support, especially in those tunnels, that there was some kind of human occupation underground?
The tunnels are especially interesting, and there are several cultural layers. The first one are the ceramic blocks that I mentioned. In archaeology, we got used on small ceramic vases or ceramic dishes. But since in Bosnia everything is big and biggest, we discovered those ceramic sculptures, and they go up to 18,000 pounds in weight. 18,000 pounds. And we have proved that they are man-made. Secondly, and they are extremely old. And then as far as the pyramid builders and the tunnel builders, they are the same intelligent beings, because the tunnels are built in the material called conglomerate. And conglomerate is nothing but pebbles, rocks, sand. When they built the pyramid, when they coated it with concrete, what they used was the same material, pebbles, rocks, sand. All they needed was the binding material. As the binder, they used clay. The ancient Romans knew 2,000 years ago that the clay is excellent binding material. What they were doing, they would ground the clay, mix it with the water, heat it up to 400 degrees, and at that temperature, clay is getting binding properties. And that was exactly the same technological process that the builders of the Bosnian Pyramids used, and we got certificates from different scientific institutions for that. And the third cultural layer are the people who came much, much after, and they discovered huge tunnels, chambers, pyramids, and for some reason they wanted to hide that knowledge from the world. So they got hundreds of thousands of tons of material inside those tunnels. They filled them up. They built the walls, dry walls, using the stones from the riverbeds. And we know exactly when they did that. According to the radiocarbon datings, it happened approximately 4,000 years ago. So we can see several cultural layers, and they are all older than our known history. Our knowledge of the ancient past is very weak. We think that everything started with us 8,000 years ago with Sumer and Babylon and Akkad, Assyria, ancient Egypt, ancient India, and we are wrong. This is just the last cycles of humanity. Before this one, there was another one which got interrupted, but by huge global catastrophe, which we know as the global flood, which happened 12,000 years ago. But before that flood, there was another cycles of humanity. They were very advanced, and we can see the proof of them. You go to eastern Lebanon, you can see the stone blocks of 1,200 tons. Our technological limit is 350 tons, and you have something that is 4 times bigger and heavier in eastern Lebanon. You go on the bottom of the Pacific floor between Japan, Taiwan, and China, and you can see megalithic blocks and megalithic cities on the bottom of the Pacific floor. At one time, they were on the surface, but once all the ice melted 12,000 years ago, they got 250 feet under. When you see some of the structures in eastern Peru, Machu Picchu, for example, you can see 4 different civilizations. Not only Incas. Incas were the last one, but the first one, we need to go back thousands and thousands of years ago. So the first Mexican pyramids, again, 12,000 years ago. Bosnian pyramids, they belong to the same set of civilization, much, much before the known civilization. So when you're talking about such discoveries, obviously there will be a lot of people who will be hesitant and who wants to stop the research. And let me say this, in the last 6 years, there have been 3 petitions signed against our project, sent to the Bosnian government, first by some of the Bosnian historians and archaeologists who wanted to stop the project. But when the Bosnian Prime Minister came to our site, when he saw those man-made concrete rectangular blocks, when he saw thousands of tourists, he said, Sam, go ahead and continue. Don't worry about the jealous scientists. The second petition was signed by Dr. Anthony Harding from European Archaeological Association. They sent it to Bosnia. It was rejected also. So what he did, he wrote a letter to all national European Archaeological Associations in Italy, France, Germany, Poland, Croatia, asking their archaeologists to boycott the project in Bosnia, threatening them that if they go there, they will find no jobs in their countries when they go back. And third one was signed by dozens of American historians, geologists, anthropologists, saying there is nothing there. It's just geological formation. Well, I'm sorry, guys. If you claim something, you have to have scientific arguments. And that's what we do. We answer to all those unfunded, unbased petitions with our scientific investigations using so many different scientific institutes, independent researchers, and telling them the history is not what we think it is, because almost everything they've been teaching us about the ancient history is wrong.
One of the things that I think is overwhelmingly, really exciting is there's your find, and then there's what's going on in your neighbor in Turkey, in Göbekli Tepe, that is dated well before the pyramids also, and I feel like they've been getting, you kind of can't ignore those monoliths. It's a little hard to say, oh, well, that's lizard on that piece of rock is natural formation. I personally find it overwhelmingly exciting that these 2 huge, really, really old finds have come to the surface in recent days.
You see, Göbekli Tepe in eastern Turkey, in what is now really Kurdistan, shows that some ancient civilization was capable of shaping 75-ton blocks and erected them, making those circles with T-shaped megaliths. Now, 75 tons, or 170,000 pounds, is a big mass. And you don't have a primitive caveman erecting those just for the fun. You have to have organized social structure and developed engineering skills to do that. And when some of the skeletons were found nearby, and they shown from 11 to 13,000 years age, obviously, we again need to rethink our roots. Some of the American anthropologists were saying, well, it simply should not be there. But it is there, and it requires answers.
That's why they buried it, so that you wouldn't be able to see it anymore. Sam, we have 3 minutes left. I have kind of a off the pyramid but still in your area question. I was on the website. I really try to keep up with what's going on at your location, and I saw a bunch of images of giant stone balls. And what they reminded me of are the ones found in Costa Rica. Are you feeling that there might be a relationship between the two finds?
You're exactly right. The stone spheres are prehistorical phenomenon, not geological, some geologists would like to say, but we have something that people shaped, and they shaped the stone spheres. That's the hardest shape to do, and we find them in southern Costa Rica, the river Dickies, but also we are finding some in western Mexico. We are finding some on Easter Island. The materials, three types. We have volcanic stone, Easter Island, Mexico. We have granite, southern Costa Rica, and we have coquina, which is, found on one little island off the, Pacific coast of Costa Rica. So, 3 different materials, and in Bosnia, we have all those 3 materials: granite, coquina, and volcanic stones. And we have perfect shape of the stone spheres. What they were used for? Well, there is a new science called biogeometry, which tells us that 2 most beneficial shapes in geometry are the shapes of the pyramids and the spheres. The ancient knew if they put the stone spheres in a bigger concentration, they're going to get accumulating energy, and it was always about the energy. And let me finish with the words. Every year in Bosnia, during the summer month, June, July, August, September, we organize international summer camp for volunteers. Last year, we had young people from 30 countries, 500 of them from 5 continents, who came to the country which was well known only for the war and the violence and the war criminals, all the negative stuff. Now, all of a sudden, we have some positive news: archaeology, tourism, young people from all over the world. And those who feel young in their hearts. The youngest volunteer was 8 years old, and the oldest, 82 years old. This year we are getting people from 42 countries and 6 continents, so we change the way how the archaeology works.
Sam, we have to go, but as I said to you on the break, when you come back to the United States and we don't have to do this weird electronic thing, we're going to have you back on, okay?
Do that. Thank you for your interest, and I'm expecting you in Bosnia.
Okay, sounds good. That's Sam Osmanagich, and we'll be back after these commercials.
Just Energy Radio with your host, Dr. Rita Louise, will return right after these messages.